Hi, welcome to the Elle Russ Show, where I deliver content intended to inspire, educate, and motivate. Engage with me online at elleruss.com and on social media. Enjoy the show. Hey everyone, I'm going to do a solo episode today on boundaries. This might require a few episodes. This is a very large topic. It spans every area of our lives. You might have issues drawing boundaries in personal relationships, but not at work, or it can be one area and not another. And again, if you've heard me talk, I think trying to become congruent and as consistent as we can throughout our beliefs and our lives and our actions, then the better things flow. So I'll just start off with sort of a couple of questions, right? So if you have issues with boundaries, which by the way, I don't. And so that is why I would love to, that's why I want to do this topic, because I will be giving examples from my life where I have to draw boundaries and how I do it. And I really do it seamlessly. And there are still moments where you get caught up and you realize, ooh, I need to further draw a boundary. But I would ask yourself, do you say yes to requests and things like that, even though your gut's kind of saying I don't want to do this, right? But you say anyway that you're oh yeah, that's great, right? So that's one area. Do you inconvenience yourself for other people? Because these types of behaviors go into sort of high functioning codependence, right? And people who don't have boundaries are often codependent. So it sort of bleeds over, right? So if you're inconveniencing yourself for other people and constantly overgiving, right? Even though a lot of it's taxing, or while you're doing the favor, or you are inconveniencing yourself, you're a little bit resentful of it. If you have an issue with one of your friends or something, or a family member's behavior, do you sort of just avoid it by just trying to avoid contact with the person? If you are a person who never asks for help and is always I got it, but you're doing a lot of things for other people, that's an issue. That also used to be me. Sometimes, codependents or people with terrible boundaries feel a need to be needed by others, and it's this false sense of sort of security. If I'm needed by you, you won't leave me. If I'm needed by you, you'll stay with me and be nice to me, or whatever it is. There's some sort of bargain going on. Do you need to be a part of the solution to someone else's problems? Now, granted, I'm a coach, so okay. But I have noticed in my life that I, over time, really started to take a back seat from jumping into trying to be a solution, because what that bleeds into is you end up overgiving and constantly spend time trying to coach people that aren't paying you. And then you realize you're not having enough time for yourself to do the shit that you want. And then you somehow resent that, or you're not getting in return from them that level. And so then you're well, I give up, right? So how can you, let's look at behavior with other people. Oftentimes it's with behavior. Are you allowing people to have unacceptable behavior around you, towards you, and you sort of try to excuse it? I see this a lot. So I'll give one example, which is, someone who is being patronized or not spoken to nicely by their significant other, husband or whatever. And they'll try to excuse and explain it by explaining well, they didn't have this in their childhood, or they have an inability to handle conflict. I'd be well, that's great. That might be the reason, but you're using it as an excuse to tolerate it versus speak up against it. If you still don't like it, you need to talk about it, right? So where are there times when you're not speaking up about it because you're excusing the thing based on what might be the reasons for their behavior? That doesn't make the behavior right, and it doesn't mean you need to tolerate it any longer. Other boundaries. This is an interesting one. So I talk about this example in my second book a little bit with Dr. Mark Leary, a PhD in psychology. So we've probably all been there, but a lot of us have had maybe an experience where, let's say you fall out with someone to some degree. I don't care whether it's someone burns a bridge with you and you don't want to talk to him anymore. Your husband slept with the babysitter and fuck that guy, that's the end of that, or whatever the situation is where you are absolutely F this person, no way, right? I am not tolerating this behavior. Because what often happens, and this is the way to tell,
in these kind of scenarios where it's like, it bothers you. You don't feel good about it. You don't like the behavior. Yet you use your head and reason to overcome your gut to explain how it is that led that person to do the behavior. That's a reason and an explanation. It's not an excuse. I see this a lot. This is very incongruent because you feel an injustice is happening and you're not doing anything about it and you're allowing it. You're settling for something you otherwise, in general, in your philosophical world of what you would rather put up with or not. This is one of those things you don't, but you put up with it anyway. That's fear of speaking up. That's being codependent and having fears about what that might bring. Here's the other thing with boundaries. Once you draw them, you have to keep them. We all know what happens if you have kids out there. Or if you've ever spent any time with children, you know that you have to set clear boundaries because they will violate them. This is what they do. They try to get out of everything. I mean, this is like, I was a kid, I did the same thing. We all did. So we set clear boundaries. If we say you can't have that, you stick to it. It's best to be consistent with kids about rules and things like that. They know you're serious. That way, the next time when you say it, they know what's going to happen. They're not like, well, they're not really going to ground us or they're not really going to take away my toy, right? But if you do, then they know. That's how they learn consequences. So consequences are from really maintaining boundaries no matter what it is. So let's say someone is snippy with you, sarcastic with you, shitty with you, pokey with you, whatever it is, yucky behavior. Even if it's yelling, it could be extreme. Any of these things, eventually, if you wanted to stop, you have to get to a point where you declare it seriously. Now, there's lots of ways to do this, right? You could say, I'd like to see a therapist with you and let's talk about it in front of someone. Sure. You could just leave because it's so abusive. Absolutely. Don't stay in something that's going to harm you. But if it's just, I don't like the way they're talking to me, their attitude sucks or whatever it is, or general snippiness, or could be anything, right? Could be an overbearing wife, naggy, anything. When are you going to step up and say, hey, you're going to have to stop talking to me that way, right? You're going to have to using that tone. Don't yell at me again. But then what happens when they yell at you again? Maybe you say it again. Hey, didn't we talk last week? I said, I'm not going to tolerate this behavior anymore. I'm fucking done with it. We're done. Stop yelling at me or whatever it is, right? Okay, well, maybe next week it's the snide comment on like, oh, well, your home business is never going anywhere or whatever. It could be a downer comment from your husband, your wife. It doesn't matter. How long are you going to keep letting it go on? What are you going to say? This is the 10th time I've told you. See, at that point, there's going to be a consequence to the boundary I draw. It's going to be, we're no longer together. We're no longer talking, or I'm leaving. And until you talk to me with the therapist or like whatever the consequences are. And then if that doesn't change, I'm out. Because the people that don't do that still suffer. I've seen people go through this for 3, 4, 5 years of their life. Then they get to the end, they go, oh my God, I can't believe I tolerated that shit. I would never tolerate that again. I can't believe I lived like that. I can't believe I walked on eggshells around this person, dancing around, trying to explain away their shitty behavior. There is no explanation for it. Let me tell you a story. Back when I was in my early 20s, I was a badass in the corporate world. You can also read about that experience if you go to the private coaching page on my website or in my book, Confident as Fuck. So anyway, I'm in this position and my partner at the company is, she's above me a little bit and she makes way more money than me. And at the time she was, I don't know how to put it. She's just a bitch. She's just a bitchy person, negative attitude. She even said once about herself, this was amazing. I've never heard anyone say this. She literally said about herself, like, when it comes to humor on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm like at a 1. And I'm like, oh my God, like you even know you're just a pain in the ass, right? So she was just kind of bitchy, snippy, terrible, terrible behavior. And because she was so successful at the company and such an earner, and we were doing so well, nobody said anything, right? She's in a position of power and money, and people are sort of letting stuff go by. Then the company starts to grow. And people are starting to complain because at some point you just can't get away with that shit. And I remember one time she walked into the office and threw an entire like water bottle across the room and was like, fuck, like at 8:00 in the morning, we all have our office doors open. And I went out and I go, what the hell is going on? And she was like, damn it, I just got into like a fender bender with my Porsche. Yeah, I know everyone's crying a river for her, right? And I looked at her and I said, I don't give a shit what happened to you this morning. You have no right to come in here and take it out on any of us. Do not care if you totaled your Porsche this morning. You don't have a fucking right to throw a water bottle across the room and act like an asshole. Another time she said to me once, in response to someone else's opinion of her, she said, I know I'm a bitch, but, and I said, stop right there. There's no but. If you know you're a bitch, you stop being a fucking bitch. End of story. Okay. She eventually did get fired because no matter how much you make for a company, eventually that kind of behavior is not going to go unnoticed. And as your company grows, it's going to become a liability. And they fired her. Fucking good. They should have, right? Now, I wasn't able to draw a few boundaries with her. She never actually treated me directly that way, but it happened around me and it was stressful and I didn't like it. I was being assaulted and abused just by her throwing a bottle across the room and yelling, fuck, that's not good energy, right? And I can only imagine the people that she actually like yelled at, right? But it still is happening around me. And so that's another thing too, like, well, they're not doing it to me, but they're doing it elsewhere. So that's another issue of boundaries. What are you willing to take there? Just because it's not happening to you, are you willing to witness it? I can tell you right now, I have wonderful male friends in my life, and they're all really incredible men. They're great fathers. They're good people. They're wonderful. Okay. And if any one of them were cheating on their wives repetitively or became a deadbeat dad, of course, at first, because they're my good friends, I would try to help them and steer them in the right direction. But if they kind of kept up with those behaviors all the time, there would probably come a day where I would say, hey, Joe, can't be your friend anymore because I just can't sit by and watch you be a deadbeat fucking dad. I can't do it. That's irresponsible. It's too much. That would hurt me more to see a friend continue down that road. There'd be a moment of which I'd have to cut them off. But if a friend came to me tomorrow and was like, oh shit, I'm addicted to heroin, I wouldn't be like later. I'd be like, oh shit, let's get you help. Right. But then let's say 2-3 years from now, they keep getting on heroin. They're on the street. They're home. Like this keeps happening. Yes. And this is why people go to Al-Anon and AA, to have people give them the permission to say, I can draw a boundary and not be a part of this person's energy or life, even though they're related to me, or even though, right, they're my best friend of 30 years or whatever that thing is. It's not about dropping people at a hat just because a problem comes up, right? But I will say that I would draw that boundary in behavior, even though it wasn't happening directly to me. So what are you allowing to happen? And also I'll say this, if you see someone that's close to you, a friend or anyone else, business colleague, and they're doing shady, unethical stuff out there in the world with other people, but not with you, it will come around to you. Do not think that you are immune to this just because you think you have a special friendship with them, or they would never do that to you. They will. There will come a time. Do not be surprised. So drawing boundaries is very important. I'm constantly drawing them. What's the difference between not doing something you want to do and being a decent person in this world with compromise? Give you an example. I have a friend who loves concerts. She sees concerts like 5 times a week. She goes to more concerts than any person you've ever met. And I'm not a big live concert person. It's not that I wouldn't enjoy one or have, and it's just I'm not like into it like she is. And she knows this. And over the years, she would invite me to concerts, and she started to realize I kind of kept saying, no, it's not my thing. But one time she called me up and she said, hey, look, I know this isn't your thing, but I need a wingman because this person's going to be there. That person's going to be there. I'm a little nervous. I need support, blah, blah, blah. Now, see, in that moment, I want to do it. My friend has asked me a favor. I'm a good friend. I want to do this for her. The overwhelming feeling of me wanting to do the favor for her that she asked me overrides my desire, my non-desire to go to a concert, right? So drawing boundaries or being confident as fuck is not about never doing anything you don't, quote, want to do, right? If a friend calls me and they're like, ah, shit, my car got towed. Damn it. Can you give me a ride to the thing? If I'm available and I'm able to do that, yes. Now, does anyone want to do that? No one wants to run that errand, but in that, friends in a bind, whatever, right? You can help them out. You also can say no. Just talking about things we don't technically want to do that no one would want to do, but you want to do them because they're for the purpose of being a friend. Now, on that note, I had some recent experiences with drawing boundaries with one of my best friends. I've got several best friends I would consider in that best friend category, and this is one of them. And they were coming into town. And I had already said, okay, the dates weren't decided by me. They said, hey, I'm coming to town and here are the dates. And I was like, oh, okay. So I jumped to kind of block out my schedule for those dates so that I would have time available for them. That's very generous, right? Those are moments when maybe I won't be coaching. People won't be able to book appointments with me. Maybe I'll lose a little income during that time, like whatever. It doesn't matter to me. It's just like, oh, hey, I don't see this person often. They're coming into town. There's been a pandemic. It's been years. Let's just block out the dates for this person, right? So in Los Angeles, I live in Los Angeles, and unless you and a friend live close to the airport, nobody in this town drives people to the airport. It's very rare because driving someone to the airport could be 3 hours out of your day or more, depending on where you live. If you've heard anything about Los Angeles traffic or the way the city is set up, it's a little bit of a pain in the ass. In fact, last summer I was coming in late at night and I called a friend I've known for 20 years because she lives close to the airport and where I was going was close to the airport. And I basically had the call was something like this, like, oh, hey, I got a shitty favor. It's horrible. I hate to even ask you. Right. And she was like, oh, you're going to really owe me one for this. I mean, that's how we operate here. Now, back in the Midwest, when I was growing up, it's like, of course you drive your friends to the airport. This is what you do. This is what you do. This is a nice thing to do. But in this day and age with Ubers and everything, and with Los Angeles, we just don't do this anymore. Traffic's just too crazy, right? That's 3 hours out of a day, which my time maybe is worth a lot more than the $50 you're going to pay for the Uber, right? So I can sort of tell that my friend still got this like Midwest mentality of picking up from the airport. And I let her know. I said, hey, look, I'm sorry if you feel that this is kind of a shitty thing, but that will literally be 3 to 4 hours out of my day sitting in a car. And I have blocked out this vacation for you, but that's one thing I'm not willing to do. You'll have to Uber to your destination. Now, if she was broke and struggling with money, I would do it. But she's absolutely not. So the $50 Uber or whatever, it's like, forget about it. But if they were broke and having a tough time and said, hey, man, I'm really short on money, I'm hating that, yeah, then I'd pay my own gas money and do the whole, like, of course, like, I don't care, whatever. Yeah, of course, I'll waste the 3 hours in the car to save them money. So that happens. And then she tells me she's planned a hair appointment in a certain part of LA that's very far from where she's staying and where I'm from. She goes, I have an appointment on this date. It'll be from 1 to 3 p.m. Can you take me there? You can't wait with me because they only allow the clients inside, and then come back and pick me up. Now, if I were to map out this whole entire journey, we're not only looking at 4+ hours in the car, we're looking at me driving somewhere and then waiting in an unknown no man's land for 2 hours. Actually, the neighborhood is not great. And we're in a pandemic where, if I go inside, I have to wear a mask in California. So then I'd have to go wear a mask somewhere 2 hours inside. Like, do I need to do that? Or can you just Uber yourself there and back? Again, like, is that what I'm now? Part of me felt like I should, I was like, no. And in a way, I think she was a little hurt by that, but I tried to explain to her. I said, listen, if it was like, hey, I pick you up, you need to go grab something really quick somewhere, and then we go about our day, that's different. You're asking me to really chauffeur you around and waste lots of hours of my day when it really is cheap and easy for you to pay to do it. And then, I've already mapped out the rest of the vacation to do things for you and kind of be your chauffeur, but there's certain things I'm not willing to be your chauffeur on while you're here. Is any of this comfortable to have to say to a friend who feels that this is maybe like they're offended by this? And she's spiritual and she's awesome. And she was like, you know what? I'm glad that you're clear about what you're willing to do and not willing to do and expressing your needs. And I'm trying to sit here and feel safe and all of that. And I said, hey, this is not to take personally. This is just kind of an LA thing. And also, come on, let's look at your request. Out of the 10 days you're here, you really want me to spend 4 hours a day driving you somewhere and then waiting around for 2 hours like a fucking limo driver somewhere to wait for, like, come on. Let's be reasonable, right? There's reasonable requests, there's reasonable compromises. And if she really was short on cash and was broke or something, or really hating it in life that way, absolutely, I would do it. But given all the circumstances, no, I'm drawing that boundary. Were there a few moments that I thought about being like, well, okay, I guess I could just go find some place to hang out for 2 hours while you're no, really, I'm gonna resent her for it. I'll resent the request. I already resented the request, even though she didn't know about like LA and all the different time stuff that goes on. She didn't know the neighborhood, she didn't get it, but still, it's like, no, this is one of my best friends. I'm still drawing boundaries. I'm still being clear. And this goes to, are you trying to be a mind reader? And are you allowing people to read your minds? Because here's the thing, when she sent me the text about, hey, I've got this appointment in this area this day, I didn't just like thumbs up it. I didn't just like, I thought, I think she wants me to drive her there. Let me make it very clear I'm not. With, by the way, no contention, no anger, no nothing, right? Just like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. So how many things in life are you going along with that you resent, that you hate, even favors like this, that you could be upfront and clear with your friends? And by the way, she's still going to be my friend. She's not going to hate me because of that. And she knows, and she's clear. I'm clear with my friends. I don't do passive aggressive stuff. I don't dance around. There's nothing subversive with me. My friends all know this. They get the straight shot that none of my friends ever have to go, is something wrong? Are you okay? I feel like so. I'll tell you, I don't have hidden agendas behind anything I do. There's no, right? Now, this person had some bad ex-girl friends in life. And I did say over text, I say, hey, look, I understand if you might be getting triggered right now from some of the old female relationships you've had, where maybe you feel like people are going to let you down. I said, but here's the thing. I blocked out my schedule and I'm extremely generous, but I'm going to be honest about what I'm available for and what I'm not. I'm mostly going to be your chauffeur and I'm mostly going to be here to hang out with you. But there's also a few things I'm not willing to do. I love it. What's the problem with that? What's the problem with that? Is anyone upset about that? Is that mean? Is that mean? Is that mean? It's not mean. Because now I'm just like, oh, thank God I don't have to spend this day doing that. I'd be so pissed. I'd be like, why did I agree to that? And then what am I going to do? Drop it on her in the last minute and get into a thing while she's here? I'm like, no, I'm just be clear up front. Also, too, she's coming from a place where the pandemic was just sort of non-existent in the sense that they didn't live their life like wearing masks indoors everywhere. So she just probably didn't also consider the fact that even if I went off to a coffee shop somewhere for 2 hours, that I have to be sitting in a mask, which she wouldn't want to do. Right. And so I think also she should probably was like, oh, that's right. Because she had a different pandemic experience where she lived and barely ever had to wear a mask for 2 years. So that was probably part of it too, not gauging that. But still, even if there were no masks, that means you want me to go sit in no man's land and find a place like to sit at a Starbucks for 2 hours while I wait for you to do your appointment and then pick you up and drive you home. It's like, let me just be at home for those 4 hours and you go figure it out and I'll meet you later. Now that sound a little bit more logical? Come on. So drawing boundaries. I'm drawing boundaries. I'm constantly drawing them. The difference between maybe me and you or other people you know is that I do them. I draw them. So are you assuming things too? Are you assuming like, well, I even had this question with some friends because a lot of my friends, we sort of agreed like, hey, we're not doing Christmas gifts every year. We don't do birthday gifts and stuff. But hey, every once in a while, maybe you do get a gift because someone found something they thought of you. But there's no obligation. There's no obligation between my friends and I. We don't give each other Christmas presents every year. But I have a friend who was giving me gifts and stuff. And so I said to them, I said, hey, first of all, my love language is not receiving gifts, but I love these gifts. That's very nice, but I'm not a gift person. And number two, are you, and is this something you need from me as your friend? Do you expect a Christmas gift every year? Like, if that's something that you need to make you feel loved, then I will make a note of that. Everyone listening, my mother doesn't want gifts at all from anyone, really. But if you don't get her a card, hell will break loose. She just needs that fucking card. If you just get her a card, I have missed a thing here and there, a holiday where I didn't get a card. Never heard the end of it. For some reason, that's my mom's love language. She loves pretty, nice, expensive, lovely, beautiful cards. And if you saw the way, and it makes sense because you'll go to her house and she'll have some card up for months. She'll look at this. Oh, that card you sent me for Mother's Day was so beautiful. Look at that card. I mean, I don't feel that way about cards. I don't care if someone ever sends me a card again. But my mother loves cards. So I asked my friend, hey, right? These are important conversations. I'm not a mind reader. And I also don't want her to think I'm an asshole every year that I'm not getting her a Christmas gift. But I also want to be very clear. First of all, maybe stop sending me gifts because that's not really what I care about. Or it's fine if you do, but just know that I don't really, you know what I mean? And the other side of it is, do you need that from me? Because if you do, I'll send the card. So like, what do I know? I know this about my mom. I've learned my lesson over the years. I have those damn cards. They are mailed ahead of time. I'm nailing the cards. And it's also important for my mom that I send cards to a few other people in the family. And I do it. Because my God, it's a $7 card, like the most expensive cards, like $7 or $10, right? It's a card. It's a postage. It's a trip to the post office box to throw it in the mail. I mean, like, really, how easy. I'm so glad my mom doesn't expect Fabergé eggs, right, for holidays and birthdays. But that's her love language. That's what makes her happy. My friend at the time, when I asked her if she needed, she goes, no, I don't. I said, okay, great. So maybe she's just a gift giver, and I misinterpreted that as her feeling like she needed it and she'd be mad if I didn't give one. These are important conversations. This also goes to, having clear communications is part of drawing boundaries. It's also on the other side of not drawing boundaries is not being a clear communicator. And also on the tip of mind reading, a great conversation to have when you start dating someone, and you're kind of moving forward, is to not near a holiday or on a birthday, but to bring it up ahead of time and say, hey, how do you feel about birthdays and holidays and things like that? Do you celebrate Christmas? Do you love it? Do you expect presents? Do you celebrate your birthday? Do you have a favorite holiday? I've asked this question. It's so amazing, the wide variety of answers. I've heard everything from, I don't care about anything but my birthday. Holy shit, big bash better be a blowout. Celebrate the shit out of it. Okay, I don't feel that way about my birthday. Then there's other people that like, Thanksgiving, it's the only one I care about, right? Some women are like, don't ever take me to a restaurant on Valentine's Day. I will vomit. Other women are like, I just want some flowers and a quiet dinner at home. Other people are like, take me out. Some people, again, what do you expect and want for things that people get into fights about all the time? Which are these things? Because then the birthday rolls around and it's ruined because you never told anyone how you wanted to celebrate it. You had expectations on thinking someone would do something for you, even if it was based on what you would do for someone. Well, not everyone's like that. So have you been clear? Stop blaming people for shit that they didn't know to do. And also, if you keep having disappointing birthdays and Christmases or whatever it is, speak up. Tell somebody and then at least at that point, you have a bone to pick, because you could be like, look, I told you every year, I've set alarms in your phone to get me a present for my birthday that this is important to me, right? Or I need to have a dinner on Valentine's Day, home cooked at home. This is what I want to do every Valentine's Day. And I've told you and you haven't done it yet. Okay, well, you have like a bone to pick with that someone agreed to something and went back on it. Fine. So many people have so many disappointing birthdays and holidays. These are the things that always get ruined between couples because the expectations are just not there. Some people expect like expensive presents. If a guy gave me a necklace for my birthday, I mean, if it's beautiful, I'm sure I would love it. But I also don't care about that stuff. Actually, I'd like a massage or a facial. Like I'd like an experience or a weekend away, or like to me, I don't care about the purses or the jewelry, but to someone else, nope, you better get me jewelry every birthday. That's fine. Whatever you want. What do you want? Step up, declare it, be clear, draw a boundary. And then that's the boundary, right? If I kept failing to send my mother cards, she'd have a reason to go, hey man, I told you what I needed and what I wanted. It's really not a big ask, and yet you're not doing it. No, I'd say you're right. That's shitty because it's kind of so easy, right? Now, I could say, well, what is it about you that needs these cards? You should look at that. That's your fucking problem. Why the fuck do you care so much about cards, mom? Maybe you need to just not care about cards. I mean, I could, but like, really? Okay, they're $10, so she cares about cards. That's really not an argument. If she cared about getting, expensive silverware every year, I'd go, hey, mom, I mean, it's getting excessive now. I've given you get like 100 spoons. It's getting costly or whatever. But she doesn't. She just wants cards, not Fabergé eggs, not diamonds. What do the people in your life want? What do you want? Are you telling them what you want? I have a friend who, her dog was the love of her life. She didn't have children, and she'd been with someone for 10 years. And after the dog died, she was a mess. She was so depressed. As if any of you have lost a pet, you know how just horribly depressing it is. It's just tears all day long, every day for days. And she really felt like she wasn't getting enough love from him and attention during this time. And instead of asking him for it, she just berated him for not giving her what she assumed he would have figured out she needed, because he also lived with a dog and understood how much she loved the dog. But I said to her, well, hold on a minute. Did you ever ask him for what you needed? Or did you just go and blame him for not giving you something? Could you go to him now and say, hey, you know what? I'm a mess. Like, I'm an emotional, sappy, stupid, gross mess over this doggy. I know it'll get better. But honestly, what's going to make me feel better is if you give me extra love and snuggles. I just need snuggles, slap it on, be sappy, be gross, overdo it, because that's what I need. Can you do that for me? I just need like a lot of attention right now, probably for the next couple weeks. I'm sure he would have been like, oh my God, totally. But before even giving the person a chance, you're blaming them for something you never even laid the roadmap out for them to be able to achieve for you. So that's a part of drawing boundaries, or just it's clear communication. It's creating sort of clean agreements, right? So I was taking a trip years ago with a female friend of mine. We were staying in two different places right next to each other. So we had our own spaces and our own bathrooms and our own little, apartments, but we were going to be together for like 2 weeks. And I was just very clear with them before we went. I said, hey, here's the deal. There might be time in this 2 weeks you want some alone time. I might want some alone time. Like, no offense. It's all good. It's all good. Let's not take offense to that. And if you need it, take it. Just say it. Hey, I'm going to go off for a few hours. Hey, can I take the car for a few hours? I'm out of here. I'll see you tomorrow morning. That's fine. Let's not get offended. Just honor yourself. We're on vacation. We're going to be together for 2 weeks, most of the day, every day. Right? Doesn't that sound like a great thing to sort of bring up for travel thing with a friend when you're there for 2 weeks with someone? Yeah. Kind of gives everyone permission to say fuck off if they need to without being offended. And again, it may not be because they're annoyed by you, just they need to go have their own space. Clean agreements. So if you ever say stuff like, I shouldn't have to tell them that. No, you have to. How do you know there's a boundary that's been broken? Well, usually boundaries being broken or feeling like there needs to be a boundary that's created is because you're not feeling good in that moment. So you got to go, what am I feeling? Because it's usually something other than elation and happiness and pure joy, right? You're usually like, I'm bothered, I'm annoyed, I'm upset, I'm offended, whatever that is, right? So not only what are you feeling, where are you feeling it? Is it somewhere, is it the pit of your stomach? Are you getting choked up in the throat? If you're getting choked up in the throat like that, that's an inability to speak up. You might feel stifled by something, right? A person or a situation. If it's in your stomach, is it a pit of the stomach? Is it a gut feeling? Then you go, hold on, did something just happen that triggered that? Like, did a conversation I just have, like, I had this feeling, I had this conversation. They don't seem related. Let me replay that conversation because the feeling only came up after that. Let me take a look there. Any triggers, anything that they said related to something I'm particularly sensitive about or that I'm offended by or didn't like. What is it? What did I didn't like about it? Was it unethical? Was it demeaning? Maybe it's like right after she asked me to drive her to the airport, I had this pit in my stomach. Okay, well, there you go. So what is it about them asking you to drive to the airport? You heard my whole explanation already earlier, but it's the drive to the airport replaced with anything. The pit in my stomach when they asked me to go to this event, when they asked me to, you can ask, does this situation, does this feeling remind me of anything I've been through before? Does it remind me of a person, a particular person's behavior? Because sometimes you may be projecting that onto a person. That's always a possibility. It could be also back to what I've said in another episode about being the common denominator. Are you triggered because it's based on it's too familiar from a person that you don't have good vibes about and with? True healing and really smooth relationships can only come from honoring your authenticity, like how do you really feel about it? What someone else's threshold for something is not yours. You have your own preferences in life. It would be ridiculous for me to convince, like if you're a guy listening right now, and let's say you're a white male and you love tall Asian chicks. It doesn't matter what it is that you love. Let's say you love a specific type. You're just like, I am so attracted to Asian women. It would be insane for me to try to logicalize you out of that or try to go, well, you should really consider brunettes or blondes or white people or black people. They would be like, I've been around the world. I'm 50 years old. Like, I am attracted to what I'm attracted to. You are allowed to have your preferences because there's no reasoning someone out of what they're attracted to. I mean, you could, and they could go try, but then they could be like, yeah, no, I just have a preference. It's okay that you have a preference. You got to express your preferences to people. I had to draw a boundary recently too with a friend of mine who wanted their daughter to stay with me for one night in my place. Now, this person was traveling all over, was also coming from a university, still in a pandemic, didn't really want to be with them in close quarters. They were also asking me to drive them. It was like a whole thing. It was resolved. They eventually didn't need to spend the night. This is literally one of my best friends of like 30 years. And I was like, sorry, it doesn't work for me this way right now with what I have going on. And it was because also I had a lot going on. I was doing my taxes. There was shit everywhere. I'm like doing, all these different things. Had a lot of business stuff going on. I was sort of like in this focused, like messy student dorm environment where all my things were, and I was just like, I don't want the disruption right now. And again, if he were really broke or something, or if we're in case of emergency, absolutely. 5 people come over to a slumber party at my house. So my friends and people around me, and maybe even you, know me as someone who is going to be very honest about my boundaries and what I'm willing to do and not do. And when I don't, I regret it. And that's okay. You just learn from it and go, oh, I didn't like that. Yeah, I kind of resent that now. I wish I didn't agree to that. And then there's some things you really don't want to do and you do them. And even if you don't like doing them, you still feel good about them because you feel good about the choice to support a friend, to help somebody, to X, Y, Z, to inconvenience yourself. Sometimes it's worth it. On the other side, so all of these like people pleasing or overgiving or non-boundary or codependent behaviors, if you go to like the flip side of it, like what are all the other awesome things? People being direct, clear, knowing where everyone stands. One of the things I prefer to hang out, do business with, and have friends with people who are approachable, meaning you're not walking on eggshells, they're not moody. So for me, I hate moody people. We all have moods. We all have moody moments. Moody people take it out on the people around them, and they also walk around with a shitty ass vibe and fucking stew. And you're like, what's wrong? Is anything wrong? I'm fine. And it's not. It's just bullshit. I don't have time for it. If I sense that someone is moody, forget it. Not my friend, won't be their friend, won't date them, can't do it. I will never dance around eggshells on anyone, around anyone. And neither should you, unless you're okay with it. Most people aren't. Most people don't like to be on edge. We like consistency, right? Because it's trustworthy, it's reliable, and it's even keeled. So let's say you've been in a pattern with someone, a husband, a business partner, or something for years where you never drew boundaries, and now it's weird that you're going to be drawing them. I get that. And you might get challenged on that. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, not only did I not draw boundaries and now it's weird that I'm going to, I also treated them in a way, like maybe I spoke to them in a way that I'm not proud of. Maybe it was in response to them patronizing me, but I also did it too. That's right. You admit your guilt then when it comes up. If they challenge you and go, well, you talked to me that way too, be like, yep, and I'm sorry. It was wrong and shitty, and it might have been a response to how you were talking to me, but today it ends. Today it ends. Being very firm and declarative about a thing usually will get the results. When you say something, they're like, oh shit, they're serious, right? They're serious. Or you kind of also sense if maybe they're not. So sometimes boundaries do have to be declared, not in a shitty, nasty tone, but just in a straight up, like, here, let me break it down for you, right? Here's the deal. Just factual. So I would just ask, like, where can you draw more boundaries? What are you doing? Are you doing stuff you shouldn't be doing? Running errands for people you shouldn't, overgiving because you've always been that person? How do I draw back though? They're going to keep asking me. We have this thing once a week where I always drive them the thing and now I don't want to do it anymore. Well, it's going to be an uncomfortable moment. We're going to have to say, hey, I know I agreed to drive you to the thing every week for the next 3 months. It's been a month. Guess what? I'll give you a few weeks to find someone else, whatever, but I can't do it anymore. Well, I don't want to go back on my agreement. Yeah. Well, how's your life? So honoring your agreement is more important than you suffering over here. And maybe not. Maybe the risk to benefit ratio is different. Every friend, every person in your life is going to have a lapse in character. It's the idea that you're still hanging around with them because that's so occasional, so random, right? One of the things I find with people in codependent or abusive or relationships with people they shouldn't be, or treating them in a certain way and they're tolerating certain behaviors. A lot of people think if you're a people pleaser or you're a bad boundary drawer or codependent, there's this like theme of feeling like you can handle them. I remember someone one time was married to someone, the woman was extremely difficult, kind of drama, whatever. And the husband was not stepping up, speaking up, drawing boundaries, would just let this person barrel all over the place. And I said, yeah, I don't know, you need to draw some serious boundaries here. Like you need to speak up. And they're like, no. Like I got them. I got it. Guess what? He didn't. No one's got it. You know why? That's an eggshell thing. If you're saying about something like, no, like there's a problem, but you excuse it by going, no, like I know how to deal with them. No, you don't. Really think about that. Because if you're still dealing with someone that's super problematic and you're dancing around on eggshells around them, thinking you know how to handle them, has the behavior stopped? Probably not. Has your handling of it changed it? What you're just trying to handle is your uncomfortability and not being able to speak up about it. That's what you're trying to handle in that moment. You're not actually handling them. They're that fucking person. They do X. That's what they do. You didn't handle it. You're putting up with it. You're eggshelling it. Eggshells are the worst. One time, many years ago, I broke up with a guy because he was a moody person, very eggshells. And my dad said, hey, what happened with that guy? And I said, well, I had to rock around on eggshells. And he said, say no more. Say no more. You never deal with that. No eggshells. Eggshells are fragile. They can crack at any moment. I do not want to hang around with a volatile motherfucker who's going to just suddenly be shitty out of nowhere. Like my old partner at that firm. God bless, save her husband or whoever. I mean, but he's guilty of it too. He's probably accepting it. And again, are you congruent with seeing an injustice somewhere else with boundaries? You see someone's boundaries being violated in a TV drama, movie, a TV show, even though it's a fictional character and scenario. Are you incensed at some boundary breaking that's happening, but you're not taking care of it and drawing the boundaries and securing them in your real life? Again, a incongruent thing, trying to become as consistent as you can. The thing about the people who are codependent or people pleasers or dance around difficult, moody, eggshelly characters or people in their lives, what they have is, this is what I call a false sense of hope for consistency. Most people have a false sense of hope for consistency. You're putting up with bullshit behavior, Oh no, I got it. I know handle them. Oh, well, they grew up this way. They're doing the work, whatever. Okay. And it keeps happening, never gets better. You have a false hope for a sense of consistency. What does that mean? You hope that the part of them that's good and cool and smooth and even keeled and fun is going to be consistent. And it turns out the shitty behavior overrides it, and you have a false sense for hope of consistency for their good behavior. It's a false sense of hope. They won't change. And they certainly won't unless you draw a boundary. It's the only way to find out if someone will. And if you draw a boundary with someone about something and you've been guilty of it yourself, you better draw that boundary for you. Walk the talk, walk the walk. I can only say that my life, I really have very few hiccups with friends or people I work with. It's very rare in my life that I've had like contentious relationships with friends and colleagues and things like that. It goes pretty smoothly. My friends are all really even-keeled, approachable, generally happy, hilarious, err on the side of humor all the time. All of my close friends. There are a few that are like a little bit, but for the most part, my friends are really, really solid, even keeled, approachable people. That's how I am. Like everyone who knows me, and maybe I'm always almost approachable. You're never going to like come into the room and be like, hey, and I'm not gonna be like, oh, fucking leave me alone. Or like, oh, I'm busy right now. Or like, I'm always approachable. No one's on eggshells walking around me. I mean, if they are, that's their own thing. But really, I don't give that off. I don't do that. Because I also would never want to put that energy out. That's such a shitty use of dominant confidence. It's no shittier than being a con man or using your confidence to like F with someone, right? Because in that moment, I would know the position I'm putting them in. And most people who are moody and snap at people, they do know. But just like any bully, they keep getting away with it because everyone's just so stunned and they'd rather not have conflict. So let me just go dance over here. Oh, I know how to handle them. I'm going to tiptoe. I'm going to make sure they're in the right mood so that I can approach them with this topic because I know them. See, I know how to handle them. I got to wait for the right time. And then, oh my fucking God, you're just dancing on around eggshells like 24/7. All right. So let's ask yourself some questions after this. In what ways can you start to, in small ways, even if it's not comfortable for you to do in big ways, start to draw boundaries? Or maybe start to even change your behavior that you're trying to condemn someone else for? Where are you going to speak up? Where are you not going to answer the phone when the person calls you don't want to talk to? When are you going to block the abusive person? So years ago, and I write about this in my second book, I think I mentioned it earlier, I never got to it, and I apologize if I strayed away there. People feel the need to see what other people are saying about them, even when those people have already declared that you're the enemy. For example, years ago, a friend of mine was in a relationship with someone, they were in love, and then she was breaking up with him, and he became psycho crazy asshole. He texted her really, really mean things, from things about her body, just like eviscerated her, awful. And she was horrified. And so it was so painful and awful and just like shocking and terrible. And it was just bad. And I said, well, why block him on your phone and go block his email address and block every single way in which he can communicate with you? No, I know I should. No, hold on a second. Stop. Are you going to block? Like, why won't you? Tell me right now. Why the fuck won't you go block this person? They've just abused you continually, send you horrible things about yourself. Why wouldn't you block them from continuing to imprint your subconscious with this horrible shit? Why? Well, I don't know. Because I'm just not ready for, you're not ready to love yourself enough. That's the truth. That's the answer. So she didn't block him. And then the next series of onslaughts of emails and texts to her were even more painful that she was creeped out for like a good 6 months to a year. It was like she was really creeped out, super creeped out. Had she just blocked the mofo when he first showed her how he was going to play the end of their relationship? What is the sick need of you to be open to communication from someone like that? Right? What's the sick ass fucking need? Now, when I talked to Mark Leary about it, he said, sometimes we have this like weird need, this feeling like we need to know what everyone's thinking about us, good or bad. But when you know it's going to be bad, why are you picking up the phone? Why are you reading the email? Years ago, I had a family member who sent my brother and I a apparently horrible, nasty, yucky email on Facebook. My brother called me. He said, hey, heads up. There's an email from so-and-so in your Facebook. Don't read it. It's horrible. I'm like traumatized by it. I just don't even read it. And I said, thank you so much, bro. Thank you. I won't. Now, most people can do this. Most people would go, ooh, what is it? I want to see what you wrote. Not me. I just got word that it's horrible. My brother's extremely offended by it. It's just like bad juju about reading this email. It's just gross. So much so he called me to say, don't read it. And I'm going to actually fucking read it. Are you going to read it? If you're there going, I probably couldn't control myself when I'd read it. You don't love yourself enough. Don't do that. So what did I do? I went on, even covered my eyes a bit so I couldn't even see maybe the first line of a sentence or a subject if that was going to be nasty. And I deleted it. I never read it. To this day, I'm so glad I didn't. And my brother has in his head whatever he read because he he made the mistake of reading it accidentally and not knowing. Why are you afraid to block? Why are you afraid to not answer the call? Why are you afraid to say, hey, you can email me from now on, but I'm blocking you from my phone and everything else, or whatever the level of boundary drawing is. I one time had a thing where I sort of broke up with someone in a nice way. I just didn't want to be friends with them anymore. That's a harsh thing, right? That sucks. You're breaking up with someone. It's not nice for either party, and it certainly feels awful to be rejected, and especially when nothing really happened, right? And you just feel like I can't be friends with this person anymore. I won't go into detail as to why I made that decision, but it was valid. Anyway, I was very nice about it. I didn't even give any reasons. It was just like, hey, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to have to love you from a distance. They kept going back, ballistic, fought it, denial. How could you understand? What is it? Da, 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 da. And I knew that my reasoning would only hurt them and start a fight and make them defensive and make them feel bad about themselves. So I decided to just stick with this blanket answer of like, hey, look, I can't. It's not jiving anymore. Stick to just like what's really true in the end and not the reasons as to how you got to the conclusion. Truth is, I just don't want to be friends with you anymore. And it doesn't really matter why, right? And they kept coming back. They kept texting, da, 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 da. And I didn't read any of it, by the way. I just kept seeing the text coming in. I'm like, I'm already done with this person. I already broke up with them. So why do I need to see what they wrote? Kept deleting it. Finally, they just sent another text and I wrote back and said, hey, listen, I've already told you what you had to tell you and you're not respecting my boundaries. Please respect my boundaries and not reach out to me anymore. Thank you. And they stopped, except for a couple months later, I got a text. Oh, hey, it was just one of these, like, not even addressing the situation. It was trying to kind of jump back in. It was like, oh, hey, I saw this thing. They were just trying to be nice. I see that. And I get that. And, it was tough for me to break up with a friend. But here's how I know it was right. I felt relieved the moment I did it, even though it was awkward and yucky and yucks. And I didn't read any of her texts. I don't need to see her sitting there struggling, going, why? And no, I don't care. I already made the decision. Doesn't matter. Why get into it? It's a non-versation. It's a non-versation. And it's only going to make everyone more upset. So they might not have the closure on it. That's okay. But you know what? I did what I had to do for me. Drawing boundaries there. We feel somehow this obligation based on time we've known someone or blood, relatives, or whatever, just sort of false sense of an obligation. It's a social construction. And I'm not saying that there's not an importance of family units and having good tribes. Of course, we all need a tribe. We all need at least one friend, some person, something to care about us, right? But why are you spending time with people in life that don't respect your boundaries, or that you're dancing on eggshells around, or that you're allowing talk to in a certain way? I could just tell you right now that life is so wonderful for me that I don't have any of that bullshit in my life with my friends or anyone else. It's fucking phenomenal. It occasionally happens with family. I don't think anyone can even avoid that one. Sometimes family, you know what? You're going to have somebody in there that's just not going to respect boundaries, right? But even then, those things can be mitigated, right? If you don't like the boundary someone's drawing with you, that's okay. It's a note to self. I have a group of people I would consider my best friends, but out of them, there are a select few that are up at the top because those are the people I never have to edit anything that comes out of my mouth with. Not one of those people out of the group. But then there are a few other people, they're still considered kind of my best friends, but I have to edit myself because I know there's certain subjects I can't talk to them about. And is that going to be limiting in terms of our overall friendship? Likely, because the other people I'm going to feel more of an affinity for, I have a deeper connection with because we have an all-encompassing, every topic, anything in life, it's all on the table. It's a broader understanding of who I am and how I feel about the world because we talk about all the topics versus someone who's like, I can't talk about that. I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about that. And that's okay. You have every right to draw the boundary. You have every right to go, I do not want to talk about politics. Right? Or I do not want to talk about, it doesn't matter. You're allowed to draw that boundary. I'm just saying that for my friends who are the closest and like the tightest, it's that they don't have, we are boundaryless in terms of the types of conversations we can have. And as a result of that, no boundaries in conversation, we have this broader trust and understanding of each other. However, there are some people where I have to draw that boundary with. There was a situation many years ago. Well, there was a person that was just very destructive. And they really weren't in my life, but they were in someone else's life. And I finally had to tell this person, hey, I can't continue to hear about that person's life anymore. It's affecting me in a negative way. And it's not really solving any problems, right? So you're going to have to go talk to someone else about that problem with that person, or you're going to have to talk to a therapist or a coach about that problem with that person. But I'm no longer available to have conversations from you about that person. And listen, someone might be upset about that. They feel hit. They feel like, hey, you're my friend. You're supposed to. How long are you going to take it though for? If it makes you feel shitty and you dread and hate, and every time you get off the phone with this person, when they talk about X, Y, Z, whoever the person is, you're just like, ugh, you don't feel good. That's one of the reasons why I broke up with a couple of friends. I noticed that every time I talked to them, hung out with them, it sucked. I didn't have fun. They weren't funny. It wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. It was like, I don't know, seemed one-sided. I was always helping them. They weren't helping me, or one was jealous, or like whatever the thing was, but I didn't feel good afterwards. And then I started to go, hold on, why do I feel good? Why do I keep hanging out with this motherfucker then? For the scraps of the good parts? For the little false sense of hopes of consistency in there? Another way too, and you've heard a lot of people in the ether right now talking about narcissists, dealing with narcissists, overcoming narcissism, gaslighting, all this kind of stuff. And yeah, there's a lot of narcissists out there. Sure. I'm sure you've all dealt with one. And if not, hold your hat if you ever run into one. But when you ever run into one, the only way to squash a narcissist is to call them out on their shit, because you'll notice it. You'll be like, that doesn't make sense because it's a gaslighting thing. Or you'll be like, that's not right because they talk to you in a certain way, or they backhand compliment you, or whatever it is, it's not going to feel right. And when you speak up and call them on that shit, they will go find someone else to prey on. You've now caught their shit. They're done. They will move on. They will move on. And look, they may try to keep coming back, right? Of course, the narcissist will always sort of try to do that, but you just keep shutting them down. There's no way for them to get in. That's a boundary thing. That's a speak up thing. It's the only way to avoid narcissists. If you see that behavior, you call it on it. That's happened to me. I dated someone and they were wonderful and great and everything. And then gaslighting. First time I was like, hey, what's up? This is weird. They're like, no, you said that. I'm like, no, I didn't. And I knew I wasn't crazy. Happened again. Another red flag. Didn't feel right. Couldn't really wrap my hand around it at the time. Happened a third time. And I said, okay, this is the third fucking time you've made me feel crazy. Like I said something or did something or thought something that I never said. Or are you accusing me of saying that I said something I did, but then you find out later I didn't do, and I'm questioning because legit, it was like confusing. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And I was like, this is the third time now. They realized in that moment, they're like, ah, shit, the jig is up. My fucking gaslighting narcissism doesn't work on them. Damn it. And they broke up with me right there. And I was like, aha, there you go. Because they knew I had kind of caught them at their game. It took me the third time. Now, if I'd see it the first time, I'd go, I'm fucking concerned that you just tried to gaslight me. Maybe I'd wait. Maybe I'd wait till the second one. And then I'd be, but the third one, I was like, no, hold on a minute. So boundaries get you out of a lot of problems. It also drawing boundaries, holding boundaries, maintaining boundaries, assessing what your preferences are and where you want to draw boundaries about that in life is going to be a happy life. No hidden resentments, no covert contracts, no passive aggressive behavior, no being treated like shit because you're allowing it, etc. Whatever. On the Primal Blueprint podcast and also on this podcast, I interviewed Terry Cole. She's known for writing a book called Boundary Boss, which is a great book. Lots of authors on the topic. If you feel like you need better boundaries, or if you feel like you're a people pleaser, Dr. Robert Glover's book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, even if you're a girl, it still applies to nice girls. That's a great book on people pleasing. Great book on narcissism. Probably the best one I've ever read is Debbie Mears's book called The Covert Passive Aggressive Narcissist. The Covert Passive Aggressive Narcissist. I did an interview with her on the Primal Blueprint podcast. You can always Google Elle Russ, Debbie Mirza, Primal Blueprint. All those episodes will come up if I ever mention something like this. I would listen to the episode with her, but also her book is great. But all of these things, whether it's you're a people pleaser, overgiver, bad boundaries, dealing with a narcissist, it's all about self-esteem, self-love, confidence, speaking up, all of this stuff, all of it. In order to draw a boundary, you have to love yourself enough to do it and recognize it. And then you also have to speak up. Those require self-love, self-esteem, and confidence. Everything in life does, obviously. I hope this has been a good one for you. I hope maybe this shores up some areas in your life. Maybe you can draw clearer boundaries, be clearer with people, have better communication. You can always reach out. Let me know if you have an idea for a solo episode, if you have a question you'd like me to address or answer on a solo episode. You can email me at elle@elleruss.com. And if you haven't, I would love it if you would write a review on Apple Podcasts on your thoughts on this podcast. If you love it, that would be much appreciated. All right, until next time.
Hey listeners, over the years, a ton of companies have approached me to collaborate, but I will only promote companies whose products I believe in and that I actually use and consume on a regular basis. So let me tell you about some of my favorite companies that I can offer you discounts for. Rep Provisions, an amazing company doing incredible things for our planet, topsoil, and animals with regenerative agriculture, and it's my #1 source for quality pasture-raised meat and chicken. Visit repprovisions.com and use code L15 for 15% off. I'm also obsessed with a company called Carnivore Crisps. They make a lean, all-natural, and delicious alternative to conventional snacking, made with just real meat and real salt. Totally addictive, and my favorite ones are the beef brisket and the ribeye. Visit carnivorecrisps.com and use code PALEO10 for 10% off. I also love and regularly use Paleo Valley products. They make amazing supplements and delicious paleo products. I use the superfood greens powder, grass-fed beef sticks, the organ complex, and their bone broth bars. I love the lemon and apple. I also use their essential C complex and more. Visit paleovalley.com/promos/Elle Russ for 15% off. I also love Primal Kitchen. They make delicious paleo-approved, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and no refined sugar products, and I use them daily, from their collagen powders and sauces and marinades to their avocado and olive oil. So good, so healthy. Visit primalkitchen.com and use code L10 for 10% off. I also love paleo powder and use it almost on everything I cook. They make incredible seasoning blends, and they also have these incredible grain-free coatings that feel just like crispy breadings that you would have had prior to knowing that there's another way. So visit paleopowder.com and use code L15 for 15% off.